Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to defer capital gains tax on the sale of cryptocurrency, businesses, real estate, all tax deferred, so you can create and preserve more wealth and invest in more real estate so you can even save more in taxes. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, and sometimes, let's say, CPA minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, we're also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets, where we also talk about all things commercial real estate brokerage. And let's see here. I am excited about our next guest. I want to make sure, he can hear me. So, Joe, can you hear me okay? Joe may or may not be able to hear me right now. Joe, can you hear me?
I'm not hearing you, Brett.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and
Not
pause
hearing
this
you
for a
again.
second here. Let's see here. So my side says it's going pretty good. Perhaps you need to change your headphones, Joe. But let's see. Let's see if we can get Joe. Joe, can you change your settings on the settings icon? Perhaps turn up your computer volume. Let's find out here. Technical difficulties here. Let's see what happens as Joe is trying to fix the system, but maybe it's Restream. Anything, Joe? You got me, no?
Okay. I'm so sorry
I'm
about
in.
that.
Okay, we're in. All right.
Yes.
All right. We're gonna take that. My team will edit that for some of you, but some of you'll have to just happily fast forward on YouTube. So I'm excited to introduce you to my guest here for the day, out of the great state of New York, Long Island area, and he is a CPA business mentor, best-selling author. And he's been helping individuals start and build and manage small businesses for over 35 years. In his capacity as a CPA and business advisor, he's been blessed to work with thousands of small business owners from all walks of life, good, hardworking American people that get caught in a web of government and IRS rules and regulations that make starting, building, and managing a small business successfully nearly impossible, with over 98% of new businesses failing within 10 years. He has made it his mission to help stem the epidemic of small business failures in the U.S. through high-quality, low-cost business education. Please welcome to the show with me, Joe DiChiara. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Hey, I'm better than I deserve. I'm excited to have you here and glean some wisdom from you. For our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you please give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. First, I apologize for the technical issues, but I've come to accept them. uh, but yeah, I'm an entrepreneur that happens to have a CPA license. I was tricked into going for my CPA license by my dad when I was 17. I had no idea that CPAs were accountants and we do bookkeeping and payroll and all kinds of exciting stuff like that. I resented my father for about 25 years until I realized that I could be any kind of accountant I want. I don't have to be the regular public accountant, banging out tax returns and financial reports. And I changed my business model about 2.5 years ago, basically to serve people that are, the people that you described in there, the people that get caught up in what I call the machine. Okay. And I have a pretty unique type of background in working with the IRS in all types of uh, audits, criminal investigations, payment agreements, and I got a pretty good education on the structure and the purpose and the mission of the IRS. And with that, uh, let's say, ammunition, I've come up with strategies to help people uh, not not fail, but at least have a shot at starting a business on the right track. Does that make
Fantastic,
sense?
Joe. Yeah, it makes perfect sense, and it's a great opportunity to talk about. By the way, never fearing an audit ever again, and that's an IRS audit that is, and we're excited to dive into some of those best kept secrets. But I want to take one other step back, Joe, for our listeners and for myself. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life. Some people call them superpowers. Some people call them strengths. I want you to go back to your younger days. Maybe it's the university days or the pre-CPA days. And I want you to think about what's maybe that one or two gifts that you believe you were given, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
Wow, that's a good question. I was given a lot of gifts, a lot of talents, and I just got done telling my team yesterday. I said, I'm really, really good at a couple of things and average or less than average in just about everything else. So, what am I good at? I'm good. I'll tell you what I'm good at. I'm good at explaining complicated matters in simple terms. That's one thing. So, I have an ability to put people at ease because of the way that I can speak to them. And yeah, and I could guarantee them that with me, they will never ever have to fear an IRS audit again. Now, like I told you before you put me on, that doesn't mean they're not going to get audited. I have no control over that. I mean, nobody does. What we do is we pay attention to compliance. We know what the rules are. We know what forms have to be filled out when, and we just keep people on track because what happens is, and this I believe is by design. Somebody starts a business, they're automatically a sole proprietor. They're at a major disadvantage because that's the worst way to do business. And it's part of what put me on this mission. I came across the statistic on the SBA website that said, was it the SBA? I forget where, one of the websites, but it said there was 30 million businesses, 25 million non-employer businesses. Now, I always took that to be just small businesses that had no employees. Well, it turns out those are sole proprietors, which made no sense to me at all. As a CPA, I feel like, I had my head in the sand for a long time. Uh, in the CPA world, we just made everybody S corps. You don't want to be a sole proprietor. And if you're an LLC, a single member LLC, the IRS doesn't care. They say you're still a sole proprietor for tax purposes. And I made it my mission to try to let those 25 million sole proprietors know that there's better options out there for them.
Fantastic. So I absolutely love that. So you're good at explaining complicated things and making them simple, and then you're also good, and I could tell, putting people at ease with your demeanor, with your voice, with your experience. And I love how you connected that to never having to fear an IRS audit again if you're working with Joe. By the way, you can find more about Joe DiChiara at bedrockbusinessbuilders.com. That's bedrockbusinessbuilders.com. And I also like how you said in the beginning, CPAs, it doesn't mean they can't be entrepreneurs, or doesn't mean they can't be, thinking outside the box and not just the typical, let's say, thought of a CPA of just doing tax returns. You can add so much value in so many other ways. I relate for that because I started out in commercial real estate, right? And I started out doing 1031 exchanges, and I still do 1031 exchanges with the clients. And I'm
Wow.
still a California real estate broker, multifamily specialist. But as I grew in the business, my clients' needs changed. And as they changed, I had to pivot and adapt. And this was after the 2008 crash because I saw so much pain and anguish. People had overpaid for properties, had too much debt, not enough liquidity, not enough diversification, and they knew they were overpaying, but they felt like they were in the shotgun wedding. They had to get married to a property, engaged in 45 days, married in 180, and it was this struggle. And I saw some lose half and some lose all. So that was my journey from moving into this, let's say, the capital gains tax world, right? We maybe say it's more of a CPA world or tax attorney world. And I've moved into the world, and that's now my passion. But I'm wondering, what's that one story for you, Joe, in regards to that passion for having people never to fear the IRS audit again? Tell me that story that just gripped you so much that now you're like, hey, I'm on a mission, so no one has to feel that ever again.
Well, you know, part of my story is that, my father tricked me into being a CPA. I went to college. I never changed my major. Every single one of my friends changed their major. It was amazing. Actually, one of my most successful friends went in to be a zoology major and wound up being a very, very successful rock star person. Okay, he's not a rock star, but anyway, with me, I graduated college. Well, before I graduated, I said, if I want to be an entrepreneur, I need to actually run a small business successfully. I always had these uh, small businesses, starting with the lemonade stand to ending up with leasing an ice cream truck. Okay, and this was, I'll go quick with this. It was the semester before I graduated. So I leased an ice cream truck. I did everything legal. I signed papers. I signed a lease. I kept records. I everything. I got maps of my route, and I had a blast that summer. I would go to the beach and sell ice cream to kids, and it was like I was the hero when I showed up, and I made money. I went to school with a good amount of cash my last semester. I get out, I get my CPA, job, my first job. 6 months into my job, I get a letter from New York State. It's got a big red stamp on it. It says tax warrant. And there was no internet then. And I thought my career was over. Literally, for 3 days, I thought I had to get a tax attorney. Anyway, I went through all this anxiety. And it turned out, I finally got up the courage to ask one of the CPAs, and he said, just call them and find out what the problem is. And they said, oh, you didn't fill out this form telling us that you're not in business anymore. From then on, and I don't know if it was subconsciously, I said, I got to help these people because I don't want anyone to go through that. I said, it was a simple thing. Leading all the way up to 2 years ago, I fought a lot of battles with the IRS. 2.5 years ago, I said, oh my God, 25 million people don't have the right information. So it goes back to that one letter.
Wow. So you get the letter in the mail. Yeah, you think your career's over. You're feeling like you're maybe going to jail or whatever. They're going to bunch of fines or whatever it is. But all that emotion drove you to where you're at now to help people to keep it simple, do the right things in the right order, which makes sense. So that's step number one, right? Making sure you're setting up maybe properly the S corp. Step number two, you're actually organizing everything. Or maybe give me your top three steps for people when they first approach you.
Top 3 steps. Okay, I'll go through the steps that they're the first 3 chapters in my business mastery course. Uh, the first one is actually 3 questions. You got to answer these 3 questions. What problem do you solve? Who do you solve it for? And how do you solve it? Because in my experience, unless you're solving a problem, uh, it's hard to run a business around that. Now, the problem could be that, the problem for people that have a lot of money and don't know where to go on vacation. Okay, that's a problem for some people. But you got to define whatever the problem is that you're solving as clearly and focused as possible. Uh, the second step is you don't have a business unless you have these two things: revenue and cash flow. Forget about the cash flow because people don't get that. That's why they got to hire somebody like me, but you still need it. They usually hire me after they've suffered, from not having cash flow. But if you don't have something that people are going to pay for, you don't have a business. It doesn't matter if you have the cure for cancer. If somebody's not going to pay you for it, you don't have a business. You have a hobby or a not for profit. Okay. And the third thing is really what I specialize in is to make sure that you're organized properly. If you don't have the right business structure when you start out, it's like building a house on sand. Okay. We build our businesses on bedrock. Uh, and reason being, I've seen too many people start out on the wrong track, get knocked down after 2 years. They go to, an accountant and they say, "Oh my God, what do you mean I owe $20,000 in taxes?" Well, that's what happens when you start a business and you don't educate yourself and you don't know this stuff. So those are my 3 steps,
Excellent.
because
Let me see if I got those.
without
Okay.
that,
So,
yeah.
what problem do you solve? Who do you solve it for? How do you solve it? And then as a part of that, it's got to be very clear on the problem you're solving. I imagine clear on the person you're solving it for, and also very clear on how you're solving it, as well as establishing some revenue, establishing some cash flow, and making sure you're building the structure on bedrock, right? Building it right the first time. And is that a fair summary so far?
Absolutely.
Excellent. By the way, you can learn more about Joe DiChiara at bedrockbusinessbuilders.com. That's bedrockbusinessbuilders.com. And that book that you were talking about, what's the name of that book, Joe?
Wait, which book?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe your latest book.
The book in my bio?
Your book. Your book. Yeah.
Oh, which one? I have a couple of them. Oh, I
Sure.
just wrote, okay, this one. I'm
Let's
sorry.
pull them up. Let's bring a couple of them out here. We
This
got
is my
there
latest
your
one.
amazing itty bitty S corp book. Look at that. So
Yeah.
13 simple steps to understanding everything about an S corp. Love that. Which
Yeah.
actually leads into the next part of this segment. The Biden administration is proposing some tax changes, and maybe we'll touch. If you stay around, we'll talk about more of Joe's books here at the end. Um, those changes could be substantial. I don't know. I know they're talking about it, and I don't know the latest, and maybe you do. But would you just give us what potentially could change, and if it does, what we all need to be adjusting or preparing for?
Yeah, the problem with all this political talk, again, from my experience, it's like, I'm a baseball fan if you didn't know that. It's like the start of the baseball season, all the experts have these opinions on who's going to make the World Series. And if you get caught up in that, and if you're a gambler man, you could start betting. This is what I know. I'm a Yankee fan, and they were favored to go to the World Series. And guess what? They're not. They didn't even get close to it. It's the same thing with tax legislation. They talk about this, and the reason is because they're trying to get votes. By the time the law is passed, it's like nothing that they were even talking about. Okay, does that make sense?
It makes perfect
So
sense, and I absolutely love the analogy. And sorry for the delay there, because I was writing down your analogy about baseball, and it's the same thing with the NFL, right? Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Who's going to win the World Series in baseball? Who's going to
it,
win the NBA Finals? And all the experts and all the pundits get on, they start talking. You're like, none of this really matters until it's October, and it's
well,
who made the playoffs, right? And
that go,
so
can I add something to that? It,
sure,
it
sure.
actually goes to a mentality I got from reading a book called The 4 Hour Work Week.
Mm.
Okay,
Mhm.
and I love those conversations. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
I could analyze that, but I'm like, I only have so long on this earth. Do I want to spend it on that, or do I want to solve the problems
Yeah, love
that I
it. That's
can solve?
fantastic. So let's have you back on after potentially this proposal is passed and these laws are changed. How about that? And that might be in the new year, it might be soon. Who knows? But how about is that fair, Joe?
Yeah, but I could tell you, I can
Mm,
make a prediction.
sure.
Okay. Uh, Taxes are going to go up.
Mhm.
Okay. Can't tell you how much they're talking about raising the capital gains tax. I guess
Mhm.
you know that, right?
Correct.
And I'm like, this is the kind of thing that the government does. They say, we want to raise more money, so we're going to raise taxes. And what actually happens is they wind up getting less money because now people with money are like, well, I'm not going to sell that piece of property until they lower the capital gains rate again. And that's what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
right now, if you have capital gains, I tell people sell it if before it goes up. I don't know what you're telling people,
Yeah,
but
well, it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? And depends on the gain, and depends on. We like to see for our clients a minimum of about $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain. If they have that, then we use the rule of 72, which states if we can earn 7% on any given amount, compounding over a 10-year period, we can double that amount. So we just closed a deal. It's actually a Bitcoin deal, and so this particular Silicon Valley expert, she bought it at a very low price. She sold it for multi-millions of dollars, and we just closed it over the weekend. And the biggest thing was her basis was very low and the gain was very high. And state of California, federal, estimated about 30%. So it was just a mathematical equation. Now,
yeah,
the key here was, crypto's going so high, so low, so high, so low. She's able to sell high, and then she's going to fund a new business venture with a business partner. So we always try to focus on the outcome versus just the tax savings and what it enables
yeah,
you to do.
absolutely.
And so it's called the Deferred Sales Trust, which it's an
Oh,
installment sale.
we have to talk about this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So let's
Yeah,
talk about it. Yeah. What
definitely.
what thoughts do you have so far on that? What I just said there?
I heard something about it, and then somebody in one of my groups mentioned it, and I said, "Yeah, I just heard about it. It's like a creative way to defer gains, right?"
It is. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's IRC
I love that
453.
stuff. It's
Yeah, it's IRC 450, which is a seller carryback, right? So if I come to Joe and like, Joe, I want to buy an apartment complex in Long Island, and let's say it's 10 million, you've owned it for 27 and a half years, and you're fully depreciated, and you have no debt, and you're like, I like to maybe either 1031, but maybe not. I might want to do something that's a little more creative and a little more passive, maybe a little more flexible with timing. Well, in a traditional installment sale, you could just carry paper. So I could come and I could give you a $3 million
right.
down payment. You could carry back the note for 7. You'll pay tax on the 3, but the 7 is in a deferral state until I pay you back. Well, that's a traditional installment sale. So we take that exact structure. So talking about building it on bedrock, we build our tax structure on the bedrock of IRC 453. It goes back to the 1920s. And from there, though, we just introduced this business trust. And this is the cool part, Joe, I think you'll like. We asked the buyer, let's call the buyer Jack from Manhattan, and Jack's going to buy it for 10 million. He can go get the financing at 3%. Say, hey, come with cash. We don't care, Jack, how you bring the money, but cooperate with this trust and with Joe who's selling it. And right before close of escrow, Joe, we have the funds. We do an installment sale with the trust, and the trust ends up ultimately selling the asset to the buyer. And the trust establishes this new basis because it bought it from you for 10 million, it sold it for 10 million, but you carried back 100% financing. So you're in a deferral state. Jack's got his property, he's gone, and that's where the magic happens here because it works not only for investment real estate, for public stock, private stock, businesses, S corps, LLCs, C corps, you name it. We've done dentists, veterinarians, optometrists, car dealerships, thousands of closes, billions under management. It's been tested by the IRS, all that stuff. But it works for cryptocurrency too. Then at the end
Cool.
of this thing, they can go and put it into their next deal or diversify it, never go into another deal. It can go into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, hard money lending, ground up development. So it's pretty flexible. And that's what we do. So any thoughts on that, Joe?
I got to wrap my head around the logistics and stuff, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities there, let's say, creative opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. It's the largest wealth transfer in the history of the planet's going on, right, with the baby boomers. and it's about, I don't know, 17 to 20 trillion at least that's going to pass to the millennials, right? Some my parents, or maybe passing to your kids, right? And this
Right.
amount of wealth is 50% of that's tied to high-end commercial real estate, private equity, which is businesses, and then into high-end primary homes. And a lot of these folks that are our joint clients, Joe, they don't know how to sell to get out without getting hammered by the tax. And you're right, Biden is proposing
Yeah.
to raise the federal capital gains tax rate. It's at 20. I'm hearing 25. I'm hearing 26. I'm hearing 28. I'm not hearing he's going to go to 40. Right? Again, that's like but we do think it's going to go up some.
Yeah.
And so they need a solution, and some of them will not sell unless they have this solution. And so that's where we try to focus like a laser on that. But then look at cryptocurrency. We think it's even better for that because at least you can get out when it's high because it's such a volatile market. So by the way, if anyone wants to learn more about that, they can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We got a free ebook. You can download that, and you can schedule a one-on-one opportunity to talk with me if you'd like. But any thoughts or questions on that, Joe? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. My focus, like I said, is on the 25 million sole proprietors and how they can start a business and not get that fear like I did when I got
Mm-hmm.
that letter. Because,
Mm-hmm.
when they start, I don't care if you get a DBA, you do an LLC, a corporate, you get bombarded with mail. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it is junk. Some of it is important.
Mm-hmm.
But these sole proprietors, I'd say the majority of them don't have an accountant,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they're still a sole proprietor.
So
But
important. I'm
just
so
to
glad I went
backtrack,
from my LLC to an S corp, right? For all of the reasons, right? But for tax planning and and maybe we can dive into that on another show. We're kind of running out of time, but you want to really assess that. I've heard about if you're making about, I don't know, 50, 75 to $100,000. What's the
okay,
number, Joe? What's the
there
number
is
that
no
you like to go
number.
with?
There is no number, and I just
Okay.
spoke to one of my assistants about this.
Mm-hmm.
She thought I was the LLC basher. She's like, "You're telling everybody they shouldn't be an LLC." No, no. LLCs are great for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Uh, but when somebody has a small, active operating entity, and when I say that, it's not real estate, it's not a passive activity, it's like a candy store, an ice cream truck,
Mm-hmm.
a construction company. You do not want to run that as a sole proprietorship for tax purposes. The only option is a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only question is it's going to be a C Corp or an S Corp? And the time to do it is yesterday. You
Mm-hmm.
don't wait. There is no magic number. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We can't even, get into it, but
Mm-hmm.
that's what I explain to people.
Little
Uh,
nuance there. So I have, a couple LLCs and then a couple of them filing as S corp. So it's LLC make the S corp election, right? So is
right.
that the same pattern that you use as well?
Well, yeah. So a lot of people come to me now and already they're like, "Oh, I'm an LLC already." Well,
Mm.
that's great. You got legal protection, but you're still a sole proprietor, and the
Right.
IRS is coming after sole proprietors.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. Sole
Mm-hmm.
proprietors get overtaxed, over audited. They combine their business and their personal tax returns. It's That's why I was shocked when I working with CPA firms, we never had sole proprietors as clients.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It
Got
was
it.
like it wasn't even, and that goes back 40 years when I first started in accounting. Everybody had an S corp.
Got it. So from the very beginning, your thoughts would be start at S corp from day one, and file. Make sure you keep a separate tax return for the S corp, separate tax return for your personal. Do not commingle those, and keep it straight and narrow. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, pretty much. The
Okay.
decision to be an S corp or a C corp really hinges on your
So
current
Joe, are you still
personal
there?
tax
You still hear me?
situation. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, we're back now. Sorry, I think we had a little glitch in the matrix
Okay,
there, so I had to go there. So, yeah. So, but that being said, we are running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
sure.
All right. Knowing what you know now, Joe, if you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you make sure to tell yourself to do?
I would have spent more time on the relationships that I had building those relationships.
Perfect.
Because today that's all it's about. You know, you can go broke,
Mhm.
but if you have relationships, you can always make your money back.
There it is. Question number 2, your favorite book that you've gifted or recommended the most in the past 12 months?
The Science of Getting Rich
Hmm.
by
Who's that by?
Wallace Wattles. Wait, did you say the one that I read in the last 12 months?
Yeah, it could be whenever you want. I mean, that's good. The Science of Getting Rich
Uh,
sounds great.
yeah, that's it.
Science of Getting Rich, and then could you also? I did promise that we would also talk about your other books. So could you name a couple of those other books that you've personally written as well?
The first book I wrote was Myths to Money.
Myths to Money.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that name.
And yeah, it's really about, you know, people think that they fail because of the economy, they don't have enough money, but you know, people fail for the wrong reason, not
Mhm.
for the reasons they think. A lot
Excellent. Maybe we'll
most
bring
of
you
the
back on the show to talk more about that. That sounds really neat.
yeah.
Do you have 2 books? Do you have 3 books?
I have the itty bitty book about
Right.
bookkeeping, and I
Perfect.
got a couple of books that I co-authored with other people. And
Cool.
you can go on Amazon; they should all be up there.
Excellent. Yes, that sounds great. Question number 3. What are you most curious about right now?
That's a good question. I'm curious about a lot of things, but right now, what's occupying my time is how I'm going to take my business to 100 million a year.
That's a great thing to be curious about. Love it. Last question. After all your success, Joe, writing multiple books, helping lots of small business owners, being a CPA who's an entrepreneur, all of those things, how do you stay centered in your values and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
I have God in my life. It's as simple as that. That keeps me grounded. Uh, I have 13 principles that I go by. I take care of my body, my mind, and my soul. It's it actually becomes pretty simple. If you take care of yourself, you could help other people. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't help anybody. And that's how I stay centered. I just stay centered by making sure that I'm in the right place, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And it's a beautiful way to end the show, Joe. I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts of taking what's complicated, making it simple, putting people at ease when it comes to their financial future with their business, and never having to fear an IRS audit ever again, especially if you're working with Joe DiChiara. And Joe, for our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
They could find me at my mastermind, which we have every Saturday. You can just go to mastermindwithjoe.com. It's a free mastermind. We love doing it. We have a lot of fun, but most of importantly is it's like a little community where we support each other, we learn, and that, you know, one of the principles that I follow is try to learn something every day. And the mastermind is a great place to learn from other people.
Amazing. Thanks, Joe, for being on the show. And we're for sure going to have you back if you do us the pleasure of being back on the show to talk more about books, talking about the Biden tax things, plans if they go through, so that everyone can prepare and adjust in a wise way. Hey, I want to thank all of our listeners for listening or watching the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets. Where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy to defer cryptocurrency, primary homes, businesses, any highly appreciated asset using the Deferred Sales Trust, we believe is one of the best ways to grow your wealth. Also, getting with someone like Joe DiChiara to help you clarify your business bedrock building of an S corp, of filing, of making sure you're doing things in order. Get with Joe. I want to thank everyone for listening, watching. Please subscribe, rate, review. You can always go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com as well if you are looking at the Deferred Sales Trust to defer your capital gains tax. We also do have a mastermind as well every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, where we're talking all things cryptocurrency, commercial real estate, investing, and the Deferred Sales Trust to bring them all together. Thanks so much, everyone, for